So first principles, guys, getting back to basics and finding out why we do what we do. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on this one either, but it's an important principle that I see springing up again and again in people that I respect and who are successful. And I think it's good for us to be able to take the glasses of our mind off, the lens through which we perceive reality, and find out what biases we have, what blind spots we have, where we may be sabotaging ourselves, not for any wrong reason, but simply because we're human. And the way that we do life and the way that our brains function, it allows us to get through a very complex world, but it also can leave us jumping to some false conclusions because of the way that we do all of that. So today, we're going to take another look at first principles here on the Daily Dance.
Welcome to the Daily Dance with your host, Brad Richardson.
Welcome back. Happy Monday. Oh, I forgot. I'm not supposed to say that. Well, I hope you're having a good Monday. Getting it done, getting ready for the week. Sometimes that's all you can do. And glad to be here with you. I'm Brad Richardson. I'm your host for the Daily Dance. It is Monday. What is it? The 27th of July. I always have to ask. It tells you how much I really pay attention to the date anymore. But Monday, 27th of July, and here you are. You happy dancer, you. Glad that you're here. So today we're going to be looking at first principles again. It's I'm told, and from what I read in physics, it's an approach that you take to solving problem solving approach, but I see its application in so many ways, and that's going to be another subject we can touch on, the way that you can take good principles from certain disciplines and then apply them wider to a number of different areas with good effect. It's a good way to approach your work and to approach life, and can allow you to move ahead faster and make your brain more adaptable. All good stuff. But this is the Daily Dance, and what that means is that we do a daily dance. Go figure. The daily dance that you really need to be doing, even more importantly, is the one that you do yourself when you get up in the morning, before you go to work, before you leave the house for the day. You do your little dance, get your head in the right headspace so that you can attack the day, or at least not get run over by it. It's meant to help you encourage yourself, and it's meant to make you feel a little bit silly. It's meant to make you loosen up a bit, make me loosen up a bit when we have to do it, and it actually does help. So before we go any further, let's go ahead and do our daily dance. There we go. So first principles. I love to talk about it. I should really dive in and study it more. Things keep coming across my desk and actually keep coming up within my family about first principles, and sometimes in ways that they don't even realize. We're just talking about our day and different tasks that someone was trying to tackle. And one of my boys, who is a chef, was talking about how he approaches things and trying to get others to do this the same way, and how difficult that can be. And what he was actually describing was a first principles approach to the way that he does things in the kitchen. He likes to understand everything from stem to stern. From the ground up, he is a strong believer that you need to understand how things work, so that when emergencies come up in his world, in the cooking world, when recipe goes sideways, when you're missing this or that ingredient, when you understand what function each ingredient and each part of the process, what function is being performed at each stage, then when you're missing something or something goes wrong at one of the stages, it makes it easier to improvise and save the situation because you understand the underlying principles. Okay, so first principles is the same idea. It's the exact same idea of whatever you're doing, instead of just doing things by rote because you were taught to do them that way because that's the way it's always been done. uh, you understand the underlying why, and so that is the first thing, is just why. A lot of first principles is getting back to asking why when we're doing things, and asking why and asking why and asking why again. I believe there is an approach that someone told me one time of that is taught of just doing that, was at 6 whys, something like that, and get you to the same, or can get you to a similar place of revealing the underlying logic and reasoning behind why you have certain process that you do, and that you were probably taught, because we all are taught things at some point. We do mimic some of those things. And at this point, I want to give a shout out to one of the articles that brought all this to the forefront again. A great article on X by this user, and I don't know how to pronounce how he pronounces his handle. So I'm putting it up there. You can find it. But a great article talking about Elon somewhat, in his pointing back to first principles all the time, and he outlines first principles thinking there really well. But just this habit of asking why, and there are a bunch of things involved, I think, in getting to the point where we can get in that habit, because to want to ask why, you have to be more committed to finding the best solution than just doing what's expedient. And yeah, I get it. A lot of times we just have to do what's expedient because of deadlines, because of whatever it is. But it's developing the conviction in yourself that whenever possible, you're going to dig deeper, and you're going to ask as many why questions when someone has a request that comes in, as many as you can, without gumming up the works and getting in the way of what's going on within your business, but so that you can dig down far enough so you understand better what the solution is that you're really going after. And when someone is bringing up, well, this is the way we've always done it, or here's the process that we have, when you ask enough whys, so that you can dig down to the bottom of why that process is in place, what's supposed to accomplish, and that can help you determine, is it still valid for today? Does it still help us the way that it did when it was first put in place? Or is there a better way to do it? So getting in that headspace of why, and toward the end of digging down to foundational things regarding an issue trying to solve, or a process that's already in place, so that you can improve either of those. So because in one case, you're establishing a new process. You ask why enough, and you tear the thing apart and get it down to the nuts and bolts of what's going on here, all the motivations and all the moving pieces. You're going to come up with a better solution. If you do the why questions with existing process, it's going to help you just double check in the same way that process is still good and valid for you and still helpful. Right? Make sense? So to do that, again, there's got to be this. You've got to want to do things better. There's got to be something in you that desires to do things at a somewhat higher level. You've got to care enough. And if you're not at that point, that could be a whole nother discussion. You do need to find motivation, ways to care. If I could encourage you in any way, it's just that your career is going to go better. You're going to go farther, and you're going to help more people around you. I firmly believe if you do things this way. If you learn to do it well, you'll make mistakes. Sometimes you'll ask too many why questions. You'll be annoying. You might slow things up. You have to learn to back off. You have to learn the proper times when to apply it and to what degree. But if you do that, you're going to be better. You're going to do better. You really will. And I think for most people, your work will become more enjoyable at that point too, because you're going to start taking ownership of what you're doing, as opposed to just going through the motions. And so that becomes a lot more fun, right? I hope you're saying yes. I hope you agree with that. Um, because with all of this, what it takes and saves time. It both takes and saves time, because this approach can take more time up front when we're digging into first principles and thinking about the stories that's been going around. That is another one of the stories that, yes, brings this to mind all the time, and that's Elon with developing the rockets at SpaceX, and he and his team, and taking that first principles approach. And in doing that, he realized, started breaking down the whole what is a rocket, what are all the parts, what do those parts cost. And so when I talk about getting down to nuts and bolts, that's what I mean. Actually, on paper, deconstructing what makes a rocket, and he discovered that the actual parts, the material needed to build a rocket, was such a small percentage of the overall cost. And that let him know that there were savings then to be had in the way that we're going to construct it, the assembly line, materials used with regard to what materials are going to allow them to have less man hours, what's going to be simpler to assemble, on and on. So that's a good example of just breaking this, why it's good to break those things down, because then they were able to find a way to build a rocket for much less. Okay. But it took time. It took time to do that up front at first, but now it's saving so much time. Look at the rate of launches that SpaceX is able to have, even with their largest rocket. It's amazing the way that compared to every other program that came before them, right? It's incredible. So you take the time up front, but then it saves time. You get that time back once you get going. And this whole principle is something that is very, very important as well, because there are so many things in business that are exactly like this. And we all know the old quote, never time to do it right, always time to do it over. Well, this is the inverse of that. This is taking the time to do things right up front, finding those first principles, understanding our business and the task and the process completely, so that we can create the most efficient and best process and product. And so as we get going, then now you're going to ramp up speed and efficiency as you go. Whereas if you don't take the time up front and do that, you're going to, maybe you're just linear. If you're lucky, maybe you plateau. You're not going to be as efficient. You're not going to be as productive, because you haven't taken the time to first break down everything that you're doing to all the moving parts and ask, what is the best way to do this, as though you're starting from scratch. You're starting over. If you make assumptions and just piece together the different processes and the different ideas that have been handed down to you, and you just continue with those, you're not going to get as much of a gain. You're not going to innovate as much. And many times you'll end up using processes that are no longer even valid. They're not even good for your situation. Maybe it's just that no one's ever taken the time to re-examine those. And so you're stuck there. So once again, I hope that makes sense. It's just, it takes and saves time. It's going to take time up front to ask all your why questions thoroughly, break apart the problem that you're trying to solve, the product that you're trying to build, and then asking, what, as though you're looking at it for the first time, what is the best way to solve for this? Is there a better way? Okay. So be willing to make that investment up front. And I kind of mentioned this before, but so with all this, you have to want to learn. You have to want to learn. It can't be an attitude of just, here's the way we've done it. I just want to do it that way. It's good enough. Let's get going. Again, times where you do have to do that because you don't have the time to do anything differently. But other warning there, isn't that a problem? Isn't that a problem? If you're always in that situation where you never have time to re-examine process, you never have time to re-examine your product, you never have that time to dig down to the nuts and bolts of your business and ask again, like you're looking at it for the first time again, is there a better way now at this stage of our business, at this stage of this product or project? If you never have enough time to ask those questions, you could have a very successful run for a while and then hit a brick wall because someone else is taking that time. A competitor is taking that time, and maybe they got behind you a little bit because they were taking the time to do that and you thought you were winning. But then they shoot right past you with exponential growth because they built a better foundation by stopping and asking the foundational questions, by stopping and asking the why questions, so that they could build the better mousetrap. Right? They could build the better product and build the better process for making the product, and then away they go. So you have to want to learn. In a culture, it's you need to respect institutional knowledge. This is hard for me. It really is, because I do see a lot of times where there's disrespect for institutional knowledge, right? And believe me, as you get older, you become more sensitive to that. It's like, hey, we've have all this foundation to build on that other people who have gone before, very smart people, have figured this out and figured that out, and it works. It's like, okay, great, but you need to be open enough to the fact that there still may be a better way. And if you can take enough time to find that better way, then you want to do that. I mean, don't you? Or are you just punching the clock and spending time while you coast along? See, it's just about having a different mentality. I want to encourage you to have that learner's attitude. That no, if there is a better way, I want to learn it. And then you can make the call. You go in with that attitude. Then you can make the call. Okay, we don't have enough time on this project. We do need to do it just the way that we have. Maybe make some notes for yourself to come back and review it. And those times will happen. But I believe you should start with the first principles attitude. Want to learn. If there's a better way, let's find it. As much as we have time for, as much as we can do, and get revved up for that. Encourage yourself in that to go for it. In that way, I think you'll end up with a better product. Your business will do better, and you'll find yourself re-energized and engaged in what you're doing, because now you're learning again. And I think most humans, we're just wired. When you learn and you get better at something, you get into it again. It may be things have gotten stale for you, but now this is going to re-energize you for your work and your profession, if you're getting into that learner's attitude again, because there's always more to learn in everything that we do. We have not exhausted all knowledge. So you have to want to learn, though. You have to want to learn. So stir that up in yourself and encourage yourself. So first principles, we're looking at why. Be used to asking those why questions. Make it a habit. Ask why and why and why again, to get back to the bottom, to get the foundation, to get to those first principles. Remember, it takes and saves time. It both takes and saves time. Takes time up front. It'll save you loads of time in the back end if you do it right. And then you have to want to learn throughout this whole process. You have to have the attitude of a learner. You have to have enough humility. You have to be wanting to learn to excel. And you won't do that perfectly. There's not, we all have days where, look, I don't want to learn anything new today. Let's just get this done and get home. I understand. That just can't be the way that you do business all the time. That just can't be the norm. And you need to understand when you're doing it too, and why you're doing it. If you're not going to have the discipline to dig into a project and break it down, if you are making the call to just do what you know works and get going, understand that that's what you're doing. Have the self-awareness to know that that is what you're doing. Don't try to convince yourself and everybody else that this is the best way. Be honest and say, well, we just don't have time to do anything more right now. We know this works. We're going to go with it. That honesty will carry you a long way. Trust with your teammates, trust with leadership, and trusting yourself, because you don't want to lie to yourself. If that's the real reason that you're doing some things, then be honest. That's why you're doing it. It's valid in a lot of cases. That's valid. But then try to make as much time. Try to leave as much leeway in your schedule and in your project planning so that you have enough time to take a first principles approach with, I'd say everything, but with at least as much as possible of your work. So that's it. Those are my 3 points. And I mentioned in the intro, just these principles aren't just good for business, though. It's a good way, just in your life. You're tackling things at home, anything you're trying to solve. You're trying to unravel life and figure out how to navigate it. It really does help to take a breath, step back, and try to understand what shortcuts you've already wired in your mind with regard to the things you're trying to tackle each day and the things you're trying to solve each day. We all have these mental shortcuts that we use to navigate through life. Once again, much smarter people than me have pointed this out and brought this to the forefront, because we don't realize, we don't stop to think about just how complex of a world that we live in. Just reality, right? The world outside, the physical world, everything that we see and touch and smell, everything that we have to process. Our brains develop a shorthand, develop shortcuts so that we can, intelligent assumptions, so that we can navigate a very complex world. But then when we're trying to solve things, you want to be able to, as much as possible, and I call them glasses on the mind. It's like you take the glasses off your mind, take a look at the lenses to see what are those shortcuts? What are my habits? What are the assumptions that I operate under that may be affecting me when I'm trying to solve for this problem? And if we can see those, the lens that we're viewing things through, then that's going to help us, again, not just make some assumptions, but to go back and start from scratch. You go, okay, I'm going to set these assumptions aside. Then I see them now. I'm going to set them aside. And now, what if I was approaching this for the very first time? And a lot of times you will end up right back where you started. I think some of the best things that I see is when you end up 98% of the way back where you started, but you did find another 2%. You did tweak it a little bit, and it's a little bit better. And I'm okay with that, because if you do 2% every time, a little bit better, consistently, you're going to, by the end of a year, have progressed a very long way, and you'll be doing very well. So examine those presuppositions that you have in any situation that you're in, work or life, and see if examining those, being cognizant of those, being aware of those, doesn't help you navigate life a little bit better. And it does take some humility, and it does take some patience to count to 10 before you make that decision. Count to 10 before you say that thing. Careful, and just create a caution yourself about making and operating off assumptions. So, what homework do we want to do for first principles? How about take one project that you're working and answer why? I've applied this in other videos as well. I think this was homework and phrased maybe slightly different way in another one, but it's still valid. Take one project and answer why. Not just why for the project overall, which is what I think I did before, but in this case, take one project and disassemble it, right? Break it down to its parts. What is the process? What was the personnel? What materials are being used? It's a software project. What materials are being used in building this, and then ask why. How did we end up there? That this is, why are we assuming that this needs to go on this software platform? Why are we assuming it needs to be done this way? Why are we assuming it needs to be done in this department or these departments? Various different ways that you can break all those things down. So find one project, make it a side project to break that project down, and to answer your why questions for it, and see if you can come up with if it reveals anything that needs to be done better, things that need to be tweaked and adjusted so that it will perform better. Because all of this, in the end, we want it to work well so that any project we're working on, anything that we're putting time and resources to, is going to be successful. I'll be honest. I get kind of frustrated with different projects. The expectation that projects are going to fail. In my world, it's software projects, but in your world, obviously, it could be something else. But big projects, everyone's got this expectation because statistics kind of bear it out that projects are going to fail. You have a big software initiative, big you're changing process through your company. So many of those big projects fail or are so rough or so hard to do. I believe taking this approach can help you do them better. It can help increase the success rate if we will take the time to do this. But it will take that commitment to take the time up front to ask your why questions and dig into the first principles of why you're doing what you're doing. But you will gain so much on the back end, and it develops a great habit, all kinds of other benefits to it. So, all right, I'm repeating myself, so I will stop that and be done for the day. But thanks again for tuning in. I hope this is helpful. If it is, please pass it on. Even if it isn't, please pass it on. If it wasn't helpful to you, it might be to someone else. And we depend on all of you to let other people know about what we're doing here. You can find us on YouTube and Rumble and LinkedIn and X. And we would love it if you'd find us on Locals and sign up. We're trying to get a community going there of listeners so that there can be some discussion around these topics in a slightly different environment than a lot of the other platforms that are out there. So we can just have serious and cordial and professional discussion about these ideas to help people's careers along. And so we would love to see you there. But at any rate, so glad you were here today. Thanks again for joining. And until next time, just remember,